Before this video begins, you might have noticed the large upload gap between my last video and this one, and I apologize for that tenfold. It's just after YouTube deciding to shaft my video about that one pro-paraphile website, I really didn't want to bother with video creation, seeing as my efforts on that one video were ultimately for naught, despite me also uploading a censored version of the video with additional context, only for that video to also get taken down. Maybe one day I will remake that video, as it still holds a very important place in my heart, and its message is still something I feel should be gotten across to everyone. But until then, that video will not be in my catalog for my channel's safety. Additionally, because of that incident, I will be trying to avoid using certain terms when referring to crimes against underage people and animals. For simplicity, in this video I will refer to those subjects as crimes against the vulnerable. I apologize for having to scrub my videos of any slightly scary wording. I just want to be able to publish content on the platform without being squashed like a bug. Anyway, back to our scheduled programming. The age-old question of whether enjoying problematic or otherwise controversial art pieces, be it music, film, photography, painting, whatever have you, makes you an equally problematic person as the people who manufacture the art in which you're taking part in enjoying. Many opinions exist on this topic, and I won't serve as the end-all be-all of this debate. I don't expect myself to be that. But I'd like to offer my perspective on this topic and how you can possibly navigate it going forward. This is a more opinionated video, and my opinion may come off as a more uncommon one. Though I promise that this video won't be a contrived session of yelling into the void, calling everyone ignorant, or calling everyone overly sensitive. That does nothing to get anything productive done in these spaces, and only serves to divide more people than to unite and educate one another. Without any more stalling, let's get into the flagrant ethics of enjoying problematic media and/or media by problematic people. What defines problematic media varies from person to person, but it can be understood to be media that encapsulates sensitive and/or offensive themes pertaining to, but not limited to, misleading information, offensive language, sensitive subject matters such as abuse of all varieties, bigotry, atrocity, etc. But remember, they're not limited to these definitions either. Problematic is also entirely subjective to those who decide to use the term. And by this, I mean the levels of what's considered problematic varies from person to person. Someone may consider a certain word problematic, while other people consider that word to be something to shrug off and move on from like nothing ever happened. This can be applied to more than just words, but I'm using words as one of the many examples of this phenomenon. As for what defines a problematic artist, this is most commonly understood to be an artist who has controversy to their name, typically through allegations of misconduct or other similar happenings, and if not applicable through allegations, could be their opinions or viewpoints of certain subjects. One person's tipping point for putting off an artist could be extremely minute, while another person's tipping point could be the worst of the worst crimes to commit against another person, and everything in between. Remember to approach these conversations with an open mind, heart, and a rational head on your shoulders. Not everything needs to be argued, at least everything at first. There are nuances to this too. This debate is a very interesting one. On one end, you have people arguing that art is the artist, and that you cannot separate it because fundamentally art has to be a reflection of those who create it. And on the other side of the fence, there are people who argue that you can separate the art from the artist because after it's created, it is separate from the artist themselves as it stands as its own entity. And where do I stand on this? It's complicated, but let me explain. I believe that you should be able to enjoy art apart from the artist, regardless of what they might have done. Because art does not exist in a vacuum. It does not exist in black and white. It exists in shades of gray, and so do the artists behind them. It is only human that we recognize this going forward. Additionally, I hate to admit this, but some of the art that has spoken to me the most that I've noticed happens to be art created by people who are deemed controversial and or downright problematic. Just because they happen to exist as a problematic person does not devalue any of the work that they've created or the impact they've had on you and other people. Human existence is more broad than good and evil, black and white, morally superior and morally inferior. These things are too broad for most people to comprehend properly because we have our own biases. We have our own experiences that shape up everything we say, how we behave, and how we see others and ourselves. But that begs the question, at what point are certain circumstances within this phenomena unavoidable? At what point do you face the ugly truth of the situation for artists who've committed life-changing crime? Let's get into that. Some of our favorite artists may be guilty of bigotry, abuse, actions against the vulnerable, or in the worst cases, murder. Though, because of these tragedies, does the art they create immediately fall under the wayside? Should the emotions you felt when you listened to or consumed these works otherwise be discredited because the creator of the work that spoke to you was a less than charitable person, or outright a criminal? No, not really. Unfortunately, art does not work like that. You cannot deny yourself of the feeling you may get from someone's creation regardless of the background it may hold. Additionally, I feel like if we are constantly policing what we can and cannot enjoy due to its artist's background, you entrap yourself from experiencing media you otherwise would have loved, despite its unfortunate flaws, and that's, in my humble opinion, no way to live. You also have to ask yourself, was the media inherently related to their crimes or actions? Could they be linked together? And in these situations, it may be harder to separate the artist from their art, especially if the subject of the art may be something that contributed to their actions, or might have contained themes they believed in, or other external factors that affect how you enjoy their works. How could we go about enjoying these pieces of art then? What lenses can we enjoy them through going forward? Let's get into criticality and how you can enjoy media despite its flaws and origins, while also acknowledging them. Being critical of the media that you engage in and consume may be just one solution to this ever-complicated problem. What do I mean by being media critical? Well, I personally view being critical of the media you consume as being able to reflect on the background of the piece alongside the background of the artist who created it. So in essence, being able to acknowledge that yes, maybe the person who created the song you're listening to, the movie that you're watching, the show that you're watching, and the art that you're visually admiring might be a less than stellar person. And that's okay, and that it won't affect how you'll enjoy the art going forward, but additionally being aware of these factors and not excusing them when engaging and enjoying the piece. Though, if upon learning about the background of an artist behind a piece of media, and you feel uncomfortable and cannot enjoy that media any longer, then that's also entirely okay. If it conflicts with your morals enough to put you off of enjoying that piece of media for your comfort, then that's entirely fine and shouldn't be considered an odd practice. It's about curating a space that makes you comfortable and happy. Because at the end of the day, it's all art, and all art regardless of its origin has merit in the world. Especially when some of the greats of a certain film, music, or visual art genre are just that, bad people. It doesn't take away from the impact they've had on people in their field or the people who engage with their art. Hell, you might have noticed the background music for this video. The artists that have chosen to be the background music for this video are either problematic or seen as controversial. Good art is allowed to come from bad people because if we discounted all the good art that came from bad people, I can assure you we wouldn't have half, if not a majority of the greats that we have in music today. And this can be applied to more than just music. This can be applied to your favorite movies, your favorite shows, your favorite artists in general, regardless of the genre they are in and what form of expression they choose to use. There are so many examples of big artists in multiple fields being extremely questionable or downright criminal people, and you probably still enjoy the pieces they create regardless of that factor because it's good art standing on its own. And I'm saying all of this because I feel like too many people in the modern day are too fixated on policing others or even themselves on what media they can enjoy and can't enjoy in fear of indulging in something problematic. Yes, some of your interests may be considered problematic because of what the creator has done, but it does not reflect on you as a person if you are able to acknowledge that and admit that yes, what they did was fundamentally terrible. If you can admit that and separate their art from them and admit that they are a bad person and that you don't support any of the actions that were committed while acknowledging them, and that the pieces of art you may enjoy from them are still good pieces of art regardless, then you're already on the first step. The second step comes through how you enjoy that content without benefiting the artist inherently. You can enjoy their works through a secondary uploader, someone removed from their Spotify or their iTunes, or in the case of different forms of art, their platforms, and you can listen/view their works through an archiver. Or in the case of the content not being archived and rather directly on the platform of said person, if they have advertisements on their content, then you can use an ad blocker and an ad blocker alternative to avoid giving them monetization in the form of viewing the ads on their content. Or if you're super paranoid, simply sail the seas to get your fix and nobody is benefiting from your listening/viewing because it happens right on your device. Speaking of sailing the seas, if you need a resource textbook on all the ways you can do this for every kind of media, then look in the free media Heck Yeah or FMHY.net. There are tons of resources they have for streaming, listening, ad blocking, torrenting, and other niche content. Don't bite the hand that feeds though, and I don't care about your thoughts on piracy. Additionally, if you're sailing, be extremely diligent of the links you're coming into contact with, and remember I hold no responsibility for damage that might happen to your device. If you're paranoid about possibly coming into contact with malicious content that may have a Trojan or something similar, then you can look towards the website guide for proven unsafe sites alongside well-graded sites. To see the list of unsafe sites, you can go to this link. To see the list of well-graded sites, you can go to this link. Both of these links and aforementioned links will be in the description. Continuing on from that though, if you're able to acknowledge that you still enjoy these pieces, and additionally acknowledge the fact that the person who created it did wrong, without excusing their actions and letting the piece exist apart from the artist, then I believe it's fine. I think a majority of art, regardless of its background, is inherently beautiful and holds merit. You don't need to constantly tiptoe around the ethics of enjoying art as long as you acknowledge these things and take the proper steps accordingly to enjoy the media critically. There's only so many good people to enjoy art from. You cannot expect or rely on each artist you encounter to be that good person. It's just better to assume nothing of them and enjoy their works equally separated from them as a person. Also, you might have noticed I haven't really put too much effort into mentioning artists that have passed on while also doing unspeakable things. I think enjoying their art is different because if they've passed on, then a monetization doesn't benefit them. Rather, it benefits their family and their label. Just wanted to make a clarification on this since I thought it was an interesting dilemma. With all that being said, enjoy what you want, with a critical lens on you at all times. Oh wow! I can't wait for the reception of this one. Additionally, I'll reiterate this again for the people in the back, but remember this is entirely subjective. I do not expect everyone's views to align with mine, and I love seeing the perspective of other people. Also, don't let my opinion influence you. Form your own opinions and conclusions from this video because forming your opinion on the basis of one video is extremely dangerous. I'm just one random person on the internet. My input is just one of many. My videos serve to encourage conversation and other perspectives, but unless it is specifically denoted as educational, then I do not want you walking away with this information as fact. Additionally, Thinking is cool. Using your brain seems to be an extremely rare trait these days. Be cool and use it. I hope it was interesting hearing me ramble about this subject. Thank you for your time. Peace, love, unity, respect, and continue creating and enjoying creation.